For centuries, the bottom of the deepest seas had been shrouded in mystery and superstition. Some say it's a hostile place inhabited by the strangest creatures. Others that it's a prison for the most dangerous outcasts.
Hearing this without any context will probably make you think that this is some sort of prologue of a fantasy movie. But no, it's from an advertisement. For toys. And not just any toy, but in my opinion, one of the best toy lines ever created. I'm talking about Bionicle. I honestly don't think I can describe in one video what Bionicle means to me. But I'ma go and try anyway. This franchise was special for a lot of different reasons, and not only for me personally. 1998. The world is enchanted by Mulan and also surprised of how terrifying cute little birds can be. Lego, on the other hand, wasn't doing so well. Actually, at that point, the last decade hasn't been really good for them. But this year, change was on its way. Yes, Lego had the rights to create Star Wars sets, and while it definitely was a success, and still is, a lot of the money went not to them, but to Lucasfilm. The time has come to take matters into own hands. Lego not only wanted to keep most of the sweet profit, no, they wanted to create their own universe, far, far away. I'm pretty sure it was Galaxy. Shut up. And so they began their quest for story ideas. And then, in the year 1999, it finally released. Throwbots. Or slicers. Okay, it still took some time to figure out the details, lore, characters and all that good stuff, but it was a beginning. And as time went by, they came up with more and more ideas, concepts and sets that would later directly contribute to Lego's magnum opus. And then, finally, in the year 2001, Bionicle saw the light of day. And it was a massive success. The journey has begun. First off, if you wanna learn more about how Bionicle came to be, check out the links in the description and info box. It will lead you to people who did a better job than I ever could. So, there it was, Bionicle. Well, at least the first wave. We are taken into the tropical island paradise of Mata Nui. It's roughly divided into 6 areas, each with their own Koro, the villages, Matoran, the villagers, and Toa, the main heroes of our franchise. Also, all Matoran, Toa, and most of the enemies are separated just like the island into 6 elements. Fire, water, air, ice, earth, and stone. And this concept pretty much continued over the 10-year span of Bionicle. There's an island, baddies who attack or enslave the villagers, and the Toa come to save the day. Well, on a very superficial level, of course. The story behind all of that is way more complex, but we all get to that later. But yeah, the first 2 waves revolving around the adventures and tales of the island of Mata Nui will always be my favorite, at least story-wise. I think my favorite Toas are the Enaika. I actually prefer the design of the Toa Nova, but the Enaika did not only also look cool as hell, to that point they were the most flexible. My favorite Matorans are still the original. I just think they look very cute. Oh, look at those little arms! Actually, pretty big arms. When it comes to the enemies, that's a tough one actually. I love the technique behind the Balrog. I love the cool design of the Rakshi with their krater, aka snake in the back, and the creepy deep sea design of the Baraki. Also, am I the only one whose parents never called Bionicle actually Bionicle? They always called them Jirakshi. Yeah, for some reason back then I thought Rakshi were called Jirakshi, and yeah, they probably just went with it. Anyway, no winner here. I found them all pretty cool. Except those bad and bug ones. But whatever. People who were interested in Bionicle back then knew that it was, everywhere. Like, everywhere. I was always jealous of that one kid in 1st grade who had the Bionicle satchel. And because of this, they also had comics. I started reading them rather late. I think sometimes around the Enaika. So, 2006? I can't remember how good the storytelling actually was. But even besides it, I loved the trivia and fan art and little extras you could read in them. I have to say though that I still definitely prefer the art style of the older comics. From around the Toa Mata and Nova. Dang, this looked hot! But Bionicle also had movies. Only 3 sadly. The most common opinions on these films are, they are fine, I had fun with them as a kid. These movies definitely were something else. For better or worse. It's clear these movies were made first and foremost to advertise the toys and not really to tell a story. There were already other and better ways Bionicle told its story, and you can't really put all of this into one movie without dumbing it down. Yeah, in retrospect and with a more mature eye, they have cheesy moments, a lot of contradictions to the actual lore, and for being the main heroes, the Toa have very little screen time. I think some people already pointed out that the Mask of Light is basically Lord of the Rings. Also, I always wanted more martial arts in them, but these movies had heart. I really like the mixture of biological and robotical parts they were going for. I love the music, and I think the animation and some set pieces actually look pretty dope. Again, I guess the real problem is that the backstory behind Bionicle, or even just the backstory of the annual wave of sets, is too long for a movie. Bionicle told its stories with many things. The internet, books, comics, games. Admittedly, it's already confusing enough to keep up with this. But a movie is just too short to handle all of this and all these characters without dumbing it down. But it was still nice to see some actually good attempts of Bionicle movies. Come to think of it, they were actually pretty dark, which fits the actual lore of Bionicle way better than something too lighthearted. Like, let's say, Ninjago, or however the heck this is pronounced. So let's talk a little bit about the Bionicle games. And yeah.
Brother, I have discovered the secret of the Borok's power, and it is also their weakness. Capture the Krana. I'm chasing.
Honestly, these games pretty much speak for themselves. Now I have to say I loved playing these games with my buddies when I was a little furniture. Because dang it, you could play as a Toa and throw blasts at those enemies from those advertisements, and this is so freaking cool! The first real Bionicle video game was, well, Bionicle. The game? Ah yes, I remember seeing it for the first time in my friend's house. Damn, what? A video game? Of Bionicle? Let's boot this shit up. But yeah, even then I noticed something's wrong here.
Makuta.
Good lord, this game is so dull, it's actually adorable. Yeah, it's very simple. It's a platformer, I guess, and sometimes you drive on something. You really can't do much except double jumping and throwing some laser blasts, which doesn't even make sense. Really, the only level that comes close to a platform is the Lua level. You can glide, slide, swim. Okay, you can't swim, but at least the platforming is somewhat challenging. Also, Lua sounds like he's Batman on steroids.
Captured. Lost.
In 3 of the levels, you don't even do any platforming at all. You're just sliding down a road, evading stuff and shooting more lasers. Also, I have to admit I really like the Kopaka level. And damn, was that challenging back then. But come on, you have 6 heroes with elemental powers and they all have some nonsensical lame as laser bubble attack. Actually, I refuse to call this an attack. This game has no fighting system. At all. Why do they even have melee weapons?
Behold, Makuta!
You may look at this and think, why the heck is Gali fighting all the 6 Borokal at once? Well, because just like Bionicle Heroes, this game doesn't give a flying about the lore. Or narrative. Just kill the stupid Boroks, dude! Oh come on, at least give the Rakshi the right collectible! I have to mention how awkward the cutscenes are. You know what? Actually, no, they're fucking glorious. This is a perfect game to just sit down with your buddy while sharing a drink. You are definitely going to have a good time. Also, it only takes like 2 hours to beat the game. Like, I get that most of the game was probably cut out because of time and money issues, but with lines like these...
I, the 7th Toa, have come to banish your darkness forever.
Like, dude, it's hard to believe this isn't purposefully bad.
I will deal with the Rakshi.
And there also was Bionicle Heroes. Yeah, there isn't really much to talk about this game. Honestly, it's just your typical Lego game with more blasters and more lasers and enemies to shoot. Come to think of it, I never played much of the actual version except the DS version, which is basically just the ego shooter version. But they were actually pretty good games on the Bionicle website. One thing is for sure, the people behind Bionicle knew how to advertise their toys. And one way how they did that was through the internet. Ah yes, I remember it like it was yesterday. It's 9 AM in the morning on a weekend. We had breakfast and young Power Coach was allowed to use the PC for about an hour. Needlessly to say, the first thing I did was checking out some news about my favorite toy line. There was just so much to discover, so much to see. The new sets, extras, TV spots, but most importantly, what's the next chapter in the story of Bionicle? I think the best thing about the website were always the web series. With each new wave of sets every year, Lego also released a new online game which I just mentioned. Actually, several, but there was always one which had an actual story and cutscenes. Now, it's up for debate if these things were actually games or rather webtoons. But what's important is that they combined Bionicle's greatest strength, the story, with interactivity. Now the miniseries weren't too important to the actual ongoing story. I'd actually consider most of them unrelated spin-offs of some sort just for the fun. And yeah, the actual, let's call it gameplay, was pretty simple. But it allowed us to dive in and become part of this world. We were able to visit the different islands and characters with a new perspective. I think this is actually a pretty good transition to my next and last point. I think to this day, no toy line ever managed to present themselves like Bionicle did. Bionicle simply made the most awesome TV spots for toys ever. And I mean it when I say this was some next level shit back then. Just look at this. This is how you sell toys. Okay, I grew up with Bionicle and I still love it, so this is probably a bit biased. However, one can just appreciate the details that went into these spots.
From great victories, mighty heroes arise. Meet Toa Nuva.
The logo that turns into dust at the beginning, the ominous subtle music in the background, the overall sound effects, especially that echoing metal impact sound that really makes those toys feel like actual normal sized robotic beings.
Deep sea descent in progress. 31, 32, 33,000.
The narrators were also very well chosen. I think the actual lack of narration highly contributes to the overall atmosphere. But when they had a narrator, he was always talking very cool and serious. And not like, the new super duper epic warrior monster set with epic fire water blasters who only shoot the most effective of steam. Buy them all, so cool. You know, that sort of stuff.
Each set sold separately.
Okay, maybe this line.
Discover the masks of power, defeat evil, and free the island.
Or this one. But I think the most important thing is the fact that we see actual toys in these spots in real environments. Not surroundings made out of Lego, but an actual world with buildings and or nature. I remember the days before smartphones, YouTube or a PC I could access anytime. Seeing these spots was always something special. For a short moment, I got a glimpse of what my heroes actually do and look like in their natural area. Now that being said, there were definitely some stinkers, especially those Piraka ads.
All that makes Piraka, yo, Piraka.
Ugh. But these were blockbusters compared to the ones of Generation 2. Ah yes, Bionicle came to a conclusion in 2010. Matanui was awakened, fulfilled his destiny, Makuta is defeated and all species live happily together. It was weird. Bionicle was there all my life to this point, and from one moment to another, it was gone, just like that. No more sets every year, no more adventures, no more epic TV spots. Until 2015. I have to be honest here, I didn't really care for Bionicle Generation 2. I was glad that it came back and the sets and figures themselves were actually pretty cool. But I quickly realized, this wasn't the same. The storytelling, the advertisement, the presentation, all of this Generation 1 did brilliantly in the beginning. And Generation 2 didn't. Now Bionicle felt like most other toys. The story was heavily dumbed down, the colors got brighter, the names were simplified, everything got more lighthearted and less grounded and serious, in comparison at least. The narration got kinda cheesy. Also, I'm really not a fan of the art style of the TV spots. Now, I'm not going to continue rambling about what I don't like about Generation 2. That topic has been run into the ground a long time ago, and it found its yearly end in 2016 anyway. I didn't want Gen 2 to fail, but for now, one can only hope that Bionicle someday returns with its original charm. Feel free to comment what you actually liked about Generation 2. Now, the Fantoka were the last sets I got from Bionicle. After that I only followed the story until Matanuri reunited Pharos Magna and all species, and this is also where Bionicle did end for me. Bionicle truly was one of a kind. I will never forget what it has done for me and how much it took part of my interest in storytelling. It showed me fantastic worlds, likable, terrifying and overall interesting characters and stories. But it also taught me a lot of valuable lessons. This was my story with Bionicle. I hope you enjoyed this little journey with me to a time before time, and maybe you have your own story with it you wanna share. Yes, Bionicle is gone now, but it will remain in our hearts as one of the coolest shit ever. Its stories, heroes and lessons will live on, because some things will never change. Like the courage and daring of true heroes. Thank you for watching my video. Power out.